We're going on a little early here at Project Spurs as we cover the first round of the NBA draft tonight. Rudy Campos Jr., the noob, the rookie of Project Spurs, making the small debut tonight for Project Spurs. As like I said, we cover the first round of the NBA draft, the 2021 NBA draft. I'll be joined alongside Joe Garcia, who's going to be the man behind the glass tonight. Josh Paredes is sitting next to me. And, of course, here comes the Boomstein himself, Benjamin Boomstein, the draft guru, the college man of Project Spurs. Gentlemen, it's draft night. We're going to take about 10 minutes of everybody's time and get into some quick Spurs talk because the Spurs, as of right now, pick at number 12. Are they going to take Jalen Johnson? Are they going to take Kai Jones? Ben's got him taking, hopefully, Franz Wagner, which I told Ben I was going to send him 12 dead roses if that happened. But Ben is sold on Franz Wagner. Real quick, Ben, give us your thoughts on this 12th pick for the Spurs. Is it going to be Franz if he's there, or do you see somebody else?
I mean, if he's there, I think he's the safest pick. And if we know about Spurs love to be safe, they love to be boring, he is a safe and boring pick. So that's why I think they would go with him if he's available at 12. The more I have been looking at mock drafts and reading reports, it's looking more and more like he's probably going to go before that, though. So you may not end up sending me 12 dead roses. You may send me 12 live ones because you care that deeply, Rody, but we'll see.
I can definitely send you a dozen live roses. It just depends on the color because if it's a player that I like, it'll be red. If it's not a player I like, I will send you 12 live black roses if it's not a player I like.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, then I'm going to need that list from you because I will gotta put out the good juju in the universe for that now.
Oh, for sure, buddy, for sure. Also, we are joined by Josh Paredes, Project Spurs, Air Alamo writer as well. Josh, you're going to be kind of doing the Wojnarowski info for our group tonight. Earlier, we saw pretty much the finalization, so to speak, of the transaction that's going to send Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and the I can't remember the draft pick, but it's a 2021 draft pick this year for the Lakers, over to the Washington Wizards for one Russell. I'm jacking up 100 threes. Westbrook. How does that affect the Spurs right now? Because we were seeing that the Spurs and Lakers were kind of in talks for a DeRozan Kuzma type move. How does that affect the Spurs going into tonight that you feel?
I mean, it definitely rolls out. I mean, according to what we're seeing, the whole Kuzma, maybe DeRozan situation we were reporting on at Project Spurs, there was some, I believe it was Mark Stein, that was reporting some traction with that. I mean, as far as the Spurs and you know, in the Western Conference, the Lakers are going to get another non-shooter that likes to kind of dominate the ball. Not quite sure about this move for them. They're giving up a decent amount for Westbrook, but it's not really a surprise considering the Lakers are always centered around like star talks and.
Well, yeah, they want to sell season tickets,
right.
And that's probably the best way to sell season tickets.
Yeah, I just don't know who's going to be shooting for them unless they get Wagner. Maybe he's not going to drop that far though.
Well, yeah, Ben would be upset if they got Wagner if he dropped that far. That's for sure. You know, one thing that I saw coming across a little while ago was Bradley Beal said that he is content to stay in Washington. Earlier in the week, we saw potential rumors, so to speak, about Washington interest in DeMar DeRozan, possibly sending back maybe a familiar favorite for the fans in Davis Bertans. Rui Hachimura was actually involved in that discussion as well. Some people saying Denny Avdija as well, but also the most important thing is they would get that Wizards draft pick in the first round. With Bradley Beal coming out, I'll go to one of you guys here. With Bradley Beal saying that, does it hold any more water knowing that now that he wants to stay and DeRozan could be paired with him, that it could be likely we see DeRozan going to Washington?
Ben?
Yeah, I'd say there's, I mean, it's a much greater chance than him going to LA now because with the contract they're going to reportedly take on with Westbrook, you've got you just don't have the space to take on DeMar DeRozan unless he really is all about the rings and is going to take the mid-level exception. And I think Paul and I discussed that on the last podcast. It wasn't even the full mid-level exception. It was like $5 million or something. And if you're DeMar DeRozan, you probably see yourself as still in your prime. he's 30, just turning 30. He still does a lot of really good things for you. I mean, he had his best assist years in San Antonio, so he's a guy who can clearly still make plays for teams. I would assume he would want to be compensated appropriately, and about $5 million is not appropriately compensating for a man with DeMar DeRozan's talents. So, a sign and trade certainly a possibility with other teams. I would say the Lakers are definitely out at this point. There is also the possibility he outright signs with the Wizards, because I want to say that the salary that they're taking on from the potential three pieces that they get is still slightly less than what they were paying Westbrook. And I also believe that it gives them more flexibility down the line. So maybe you kind of backload his contract if you do an outright signing with him.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think you're right. The LA Lakers are probably out of the DeRozan sweepstakes. It does kind of open the ways for Washington. But another thing coming up, Josh, that I've also kind of felt is with the rumors basically dead with Kuzma and the Lakers, does this even open up that window for DeRozan to sign back with the Spurs, knowing he can get a good amount of money here? You might see a really good draft pick tonight at number 12 that could help. Not only that, this potential is still there to max out a player like a John Collins.
Right.
So it might look tempting to stay here in San Antonio. I mean, what are the possibilities of that happening?
I mean, yeah, that's always been a possibility. I mean, he kind of was thrust here. He didn't really choose to be here, but he's thrived. There hasn't really been a good enough system around him, not enough shooting, not enough help defense to kind of make up for some of the his deficiencies. So it's always been a possibility. And I think, I'm not sure about him going to Washington if that whole interview is true about, when he was on Shannon Sharp, he wants to be going to a contender. There's very limited contenders that can afford him.
Yeah.
If the Lakers are ruled out, the Clippers can't really offer a whole lot. Paul Garcia just wrote about that recently. I was pulling it up. Just, there's the Knicks. I mean, if the whole contender thing not really apply here. So his options, he's going to have some options for teams that are kind of looking for a, go-to guy or somebody that can help them get into contender status. But the Spurs are always a possibility, I think.
I think if you're looking at it, possibly the Spurs might be his best option, because you're right. Going to a contender is going to cost a good amount. And I've always said a contender is not going to really trade away their best pieces, knowing that they're right there in contention, to get a DeMar DeRozan. I mean, it's pretty simple, as simple as that. You want to give up the least amount you can to get that better player. So
that brings up a very interesting point, I think, because a team that probably sees them ahead of their window or getting into a potential championship window is the Atlanta Hawks. You go to the ECF, you basically play with two of your young players who you expected to have but didn't, in DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. You potentially lose John Collins this offseason. If you lose him, they now have the cap space to sign a DeMar DeRozan, and maybe he's the guy who takes you over the top. He doesn't really take away minutes from those two guys who play forward. He'd be more of a two, and maybe you play him alongside Trae Young a little bit and see what happens. But I think there might be a scenario where the Spurs and the Hawks kind of swap guys without actually trading.
Yeah, exactly. That would make a really good point.
Yeah,
that'd be very interesting. And you're right. The Hawks are a team that were right there, right on the cusp of being in the finals. Adding a DeMar DeRozan would be a brilliant move by them. You're actually losing to Collins, but I mean, you still have. I can't remember the guy's name that plays in Atlanta. That was Collins' backup.
Okongwu.
Yeah, Okongwu. He was improving there. You can still get somebody in this draft. There's going to be a big man in this draft that Atlanta can get. But yeah, it's going to be tough to see where DeRozan goes if they do a sign and trade. Now that the Kuzma deal has kind of gone through and it's already over, I almost see him staying in San Antonio just because of the whole, I want to play for a championship, but you're not going to go, like you said, you're not going to go for the mid-level exception on most of these teams.
We did have some comments I'd like to add, by the way.
Sure.
We have some people watching us here on YouTube. We have Haiti B, and she says, you think they would send Kuzma in a DeRozan signing trade with the Wizards to SA in a package. What do you guys think about that?
It's possible that we'll see because remember the Lakers and Wizards deal is not finalized, so we could see a third team being the Spurs, basically involved in there somehow. I mean, it's a very good possibility that Kuzma may be rerouted to San Antonio. You see DeRozan go to Washington, and then you see Russ go to the Lakers. I mean, you still could have that potentially right there.
And if the Spurs are acting as a facilitator, then maybe one of those two teams throws them a pick as well.
Exactly.
And
That's where the Lakers pick could probably
And at
come
this
in.
point, it's like you want to get something back. I feel like it's pretty much a given that he's not going to stay if it's just up to free agency.
Yeah.
So you got Kuzma, that's fine. Get some picks. I mean, might as well at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely. You gotta get something for it.
Yeah, we also had another comment by Colin Beckendorf watching us on YouTube. And, thank you, everybody, for watching and tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Colin was saying Detroit just opened the space to reunite DeRozan with Coach Casey. Look, again, that's what everybody's getting excited about. As Rudy had stated earlier in the day, that might have opened the door for, DeMar DeRozan to go to the Washington Wizards, So I think that's kind of exciting some of the Spurs fans here of the possibilities of what can the San Antonio Spurs get if, in fact, we do a sign and trade.
Yeah, for sure. And the good thing to remember, guys, is the fact that the Spurs are 29th when it comes to available money. They've only got, I think, $58 million on the books, which is nothing compared to other teams. I mean, only the Knicks have more money available. So the possibilities are there to sign a max guy, to make a trade for a very good player, maybe even a potential superstar type player. Everything is lined up, and what's lined up tonight are the same thing, are the stars that are going to be in the NBA. Everybody knows Cade Cunningham's going number one. We've seen guys like Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs. Pretty much those are going to be your top 4 picks tonight. Also, we want to give you a heads up. We are doing some giveaways tonight for you guys joining us here at the Project Spurs coverage of the 2021 NBA Draft, sponsored by DraftKings. We've got a Keldon Johnson custom USA shirt that we will be giving away. Not only that, a $20 Lids gift card, 2 $15 Spurs fan shop gift cards. Last but not least, we've got an exclusive NBA draft t-shirt that will have the name of our newest draft pick on it. All these prizes are going to be given to you tonight just for tuning in with us here at the Project Spurs NBA Draft live coverage of the first round. The shirts were designed by Dakota Mitchell, so shout out to Dakota Mitchell on that for sure. They look brilliant. We're going to actually have those shirts here for you in just a little while so you can see the graphics of what they're going to look like. But, yeah, we've got a bunch of prizes to give out tonight, so thank you, everybody, for joining in tonight. Draft starts at 7 o'clock. We're going to actually take a break here. We'll be back with our draft coverage at 7 o'clock. So be sure to join us here in about the next 5 minutes or so. We're going to get into every draft pick coming up, 1 through 30. Of course, that really big one at 12, the San Antonio Spurs. Guys, who do you think they're going to draft? Let us know when we come back on the air. For Ben Bornstein, Joe Garcia, Josh Paredes, Rudy Campos Jr. for Project Spurs. We will be right back with the start of the 2021 NBA Draft coverage powered by Project Spurs, brought to you by